Hello, folks. Uh, Here I am again. Uh, the sun's back out in Portugal. Yay. It's cold, but it's nice. Uh, I finished my Why Aren't You a Revolutionary piece and put it on Substack, Medium, and at my website, cospelon.eu. It's long, but if you read it, you can go through it slowly and linger on some of the hyperlinks and videos that I put in. Every so often, I put in a song or an amusing video so you can take a break. Basically, I'm looking at why we might want to organize and push back against the power structures that we have now, and ways that we can do that that aren't violent and chaotic and destructive, and an alternative to how we might want to live or organize things in the future that's different. This is all predicated on ideas concerning collapse and limited resources, Club of Rome stuff, peak oil, peak metal, peak whatever. We just can't keep growing at a certain clip forever on a planet with finite resources. And even if you fantasize that we're going to be mining asteroids or something, or terraforming Mars sometime in the next 24 hours, I just don't see it happening, folks. So at some point, things are going to shift dramatically away from what we've become accustomed to since World War II and towards different ways of living. It's possible that if we continue on this trajectory, billions of people might starve to death over the next few decades, which is a terrible way to die. But there's other things going on. War is always a big threat. Weapons of mass destruction are always a big threat. But ecocide itself is just wrong. It's a crime against life and humanity, and we should avoid it. We should do something to stop it. But we're not, because we're very comfortable with the way things are now. So we kind of stick to the status quo, cleave to business as usual. And so this is what we've got going, right? So I'm going to go through a couple of things that I looked at this morning for you and leave it at that. Okay, let me go to the articles I looked at today. And it involves AI, which is fascinating. Again, I have to reiterate and emphasize that these data centers, with all of their equipment, plants and equipment, are energy intensive endeavors requiring lots of metals and rare earths, which is why Trump is sounding off about taking the oil from Venezuela and taking the rare earths from Ukraine. So Ukraine has to fight Russia to the last Ukrainian so that Ukraine can give America all of its rare earths. Whoa, what a deal. The art of the deal maker. What a deal. Yeah, to the last Ukrainian for Uncle Sam. Thank you, Ukraine. Thank you very much. Spasibo. That's not Ukrainian, that's Russian. But anyway, yeah, so I'll talk about that AI thing real quick. Okay, so here we are, okay, Doomer. I posted this a long time ago. It's a 2023 article, 43-minute read. It's long. 10 reasons our civilization will soon collapse. I put a link to that in my article, Why Aren't You a Revolutionary?, which is basically making an argument that collapse is a thing, and for many reasons, in particular ecocide, which is a crime against humanity and life, basically, not a good thing. Weapons of mass destruction, climate change, all these things are happening, plus peak oil, peak metals, peak whatever. because we live on on a planet with limited resources, and you can fantasize about terraforming Mars or mining asteroids and whatnot, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. And before we get to that, it's going to be 2C or 3C above the 1750, or choose a baseline. It's going to be a hotter world with different ecosystems, which could easily amount to billions of people starving to death over the coming decades. And starving to death is a nasty way to die. And you got war going on. Trump is sounding off about taking all the oil from Venezuela, and Canada being a 51st state. And, Ukraine has to make a deal with Europe and with the United States. He wants all of the rare earths because we need all these metals for our AI. Because these data centers are energy intensive, both the plants and equipment, the materials required to make all the chips and everything, and to make the computers and to warehouse them and to run them. It's energy intensive and material intensive, requires global supply chains. And somebody whispered in Trump's ear that you need rare earth metals. So we'll do something for you, Ukraine, if you'll fight to the last Ukrainian to give the United States of America rare earth metals. So we'll support you to the last Ukrainian if you give us your stuff. Great deal. What a deal maker. The art of the deal. Great deal for Ukraine, except a lot of Ukrainians won't be alive to benefit from what? Mining rare earths for America? Anyway. Basically overshoots a thing that I'm into. And so this long post I put up arguing that, we've got problems, and then how to have a revolution without it being so destructive and violent that it really is horrific. There are ways to have revolutions that aren't so destructive as some have been in the past. French Revolution, Cultural Revolution, Bolshevik Revolution, etc. So, and then at the end of this piece, I talk about ways we could live, organize society that are different. And this is based on Ted Trainer's life. It's just one way of thinking about it. But, we have to have something that we want to fight for. I list a whole bunch of people that you might want to look into. Anyway, so moving on. The first prompt that this guy makes, I want to talk to you about Nate Jones and what he posted today, a deep dive into OpenAI Deep Research. Can you feel the AGI? Also, why is everything deep now? FFS. So it's interesting. He tests a few things, but the only one I'm going to focus on is the OpenAI Deep Research result. The prompt is interesting, and then I'll show you what came of it. So here's the prompt. Based on current trends in artificial intelligence, which industries will see the highest growth in AI-driven automation by 2030? In your response, please discuss government policy options to prepare for this automation. Please discuss options for individuals in affected industries to prepare for AI-driven automation. And please include recommendations for employers to upskill teams to better leverage AI for productivity. Of course, we're talking about productivity and economic growth as usual, business as usual. If we maintain this trend, it's not going to be very good for us, actually. But business as usual is what gets you stuff. So people are going to hope that AI is a big solution to our ills. I don't know how long we're going to be running these things and for whom, and what guardrails are going to be put up. Limitations, limits for what audiences, for what subscriber base. You have government subscribers, government contractor subscribers, military industrial complex, subscribers than plebs and proles, that are paying 19 or what are $20 a month. Students, academics, researchers, what have you. So that's an interesting prompt. And this deep research came up with a huge, really detailed result. And our man, Nate did a kind of a grading of it. Key strengths, depth and thoroughness. He talks about well-structured and readable, global perspective and specifics, which is nice, talks about that. Of course, we're always into this GDP thing, which is going to sputter out soon, I think. We're going to have to redefine growth and what that means and think about ways of life that are different than just going after this and operating the wealth pump for the 1%. Actionable guidance, he talks about that, utility and relevance, and he says it's extremely useful. And this offers concrete suggestions, potential drawbacks, length and density. So I notice that because if I post something somewhere, if it's a sentence and it irks somebody or surprises somebody or somebody likes it, I'll get a response. But if I post 2 or 3 paragraphs on something, nobody's going to read it. So I don't know if people are going to read my thing because, oh my God, it's so long. But if you read it, you can just take your time with it. Linger on the hyperlinks and enjoy some of the songs and videos I put interspersed within the piece that should give you a break from time to time. Anyway, so potential drawbacks, length, density, it's something you have to think about when you read it. So you have to apply your critical thinking skills and your intellect, and you might have to look up some words and whatnot. Complex reading level, right? And I think it's good for people to do that, but people are pretty lazy, so I don't know. But this will be good for, researchers and business managers and whatever, people who need a deeper dive. So overall assessment was complexity high, quality and utility very high, breadth and depth, structure and clarity excellent, logically organized, easy to navigate, score A+, or 9.5 to 10, standout scholarly style report with significant practical value. And this is the thing. So in the introduction, artificial intelligence AI is accelerating automation across industries worldwide. Experts project AI could contribute up to 15.7 trillion to the global economy by 2030. Trillion in what? It's, again, Jevons paradox, where you're like, the more energy we have, the more sources of energy we have, the more we're going to use. It just boosts consumption, which boosts collapse. So I don't know. 15.7 trillion of what? Happiness and nice relationships down at the cafe, more consumer stuff. Just to, like in that other article I mentioned, just to, for UK to electrify all of its vehicles would cost the world almost all of its minerals. Well, a lot of different minerals would run out based on that. So, so the greatest gains are expected in China, 26% boost to GDP by 2030, and North America, 14.5 boost. And again, we should be thinking about how to manage growth and slow down and sort things out and carefully bring AI into the world and so on. But we're not going to do that. It's pedal to the metal. It's a big war for control of AI, AGI, so that, one team can beat the other team. And it's going to have consequences, perhaps even war, right? How are you going to stop China from getting there, from beating Uncle Sam, Capturing 70% of AI's global economic impact. Wow. This report examines key AI-driven automation trends in 5 major industries: technology, manufacturing, finance, healthcare, and leisure travel, focusing on developments in the United States, China, and the European Union. It also explores, and you notice, that there's nothing else. The global south, forget it, You don't mention it. The only thing that matters is this. And this has to be killed. And the European Union exists to get down on its knees and service this. So it also explores expected adoption rates by 2030, government policy responses to prepare for AI, and strategies for workers and employers to adapt to an AI-powered future. So what I get from this is that there aren't many subversives publishing stuff. It's like when you scroll down to the where all this information came from, you have McKinsey and Visual Capitalist and Thoughtful AI blogs and all this kind of stuff. So Startup Nation, Dice.com, all these consulting companies and so on. And this is all pretty much propaganda and PR, So you have to take all of this with a grain of salt, and you have to apply your own thinking when reading it and trying to understand it. What's the point for who's going to benefit most from this stuff? And, what's the application? What are the guardrails that Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg talks about? Obviously, there's no guardrails for the military-industrial complex. Anyway, AI-driven automation trends 25 to 30, introduction. Artificial intelligence, oh yeah, I already did that one. So anyway, it goes through all these things, and you can see, like, technology industry, it has a whole paragraph on that, and it's well written. You can comprehend this stuff. Manufacturing is experiencing a surge in AI-driven automation, from industrial robots on factory floors to intelligent supply chains. So where are the MAGA people going to work in the factory? Manufacturing. They're going to design robots and chipsets for NVIDIA. And if they can't do that, what are they going to do? They're going to bitch about woke people and bathrooms and stuff like that all day long and watch TV and get all excited until they're too poor to do that. And then they're going to starve to death. Because Musk and the billionaire class in the States is getting ready with a million Ponzi schemes to fleece and rob America and the world as quickly as it can, because these guys have their bug out ranches all around the world, and they're preparing for Planet Earth, or Spaceship Earth 2.0 country club, when all of us plebs and proles have passed away from starvation. They'll swoop in and say, yeah, now all the players can compete on a fair level playing field in a revitalized planet Earth with parks everywhere, game parks, so the Trump boys can go hunting rhinoceros and whatnot. Anyway, I'm being a bit facetious, but there you go. The value of AI in industrial robotics is set to double from $10.7 billion in 2024 to $20.6 billion in 2030. And of course, we're not talking about CO2 emissions. We're not talking about the sixth extinction. We're not talking about overshoot. We're not talking about war, weapons of mass destruction, bird flu. A Taiwanese actress and singer recently died of the flu. Young lady. We're not talking about anything. We're talking about business, baby. Business. Okay, it's just business. Making the deal. Art of the deal. So industrial robots. If you're not making industrial robots, MAGA kids, what are you going to do? To buy your trucks. If you're not like working on the oil fields in Texas, West Texas, or whatever the hell people do these days on OnlyFans or whatever. Okay, so finance, obviously flash trade, like Michael Lewis's book. You're looking at all kinds of ways that this can benefit trading, right? And of course, the wealth pump goes to a certain class of people. It doesn't go to you. Hopefully, you've been investing since you got your first job at 17 or 16 or whatever it was, a few bucks a month, $100 a month, whatever it was, buying index funds and investing in Apple just for fun, a couple of bucks, just in case you buy a Bitcoin when it was $5, just in case it goes up, and you're a great investor. And years later, you're sitting pretty during your retirement. And that's all wonderful. But now this is going to be like front-ending markets like crazy. But it's got good applications, fraud detection and risk management. And with quantum computing, this is going to be extremely important. U.S. banks use AI to detect fraud. And what else are they going to detect? So there's a good documentary series produced by Al Jazeera about the technology and surveillance technology being tested out in Gaza and the West Bank over the past, decade and a half, and the impact that has. And we are in a surveillance society, cloud capital, like Yanis Varoufakis talks about. 80% of customer service interactions will be handled by AI, so you can forget about getting that job at the call center in the Philippines. You better go fishing or something. AI to enhance operations. This is lots of medical applications. So when I had a mole on my leg, I was worried it might be cancerous. I went in. The guy used some AI tool to take a picture of it and send it in and be analyzed. And he says they have good results with the AI on deciding whether it might be cancerous, but it's not perfect. And the only way to really know if it's cancer is to have it taken, cut out, and biopsied. So I had it cut out and biopsied, and it wasn't cancer. So whatever, I had to pay a few $100 to do that. But the doctor was saying that, and of course he might have been selling me, but I believe that's true. But it'll get better and better over time. And so the healthcare applications are amazing. 188 billion by 2030. Leisure and travel and hospitality personalization is the watchword. AI virtual travel agents. I had a friend years ago in the mid 2000s, who set up one of the first booking sites for hotel rooms. He coded that himself and set it up and started it in Bangkok, Thailand. And of course, nowadays, there's all kinds of booking sites all over the place. So the travel business, it was hit really hard with the internet. My mother used to run a travel agency. And, if you didn't get IT savvy back in the 90s, you were going nowhere with your travel agency. So China travel sector is huge. 70% of companies across industries are expected to use AI in operations by 2030. Why wouldn't you? Like I said before, young people don't have Google on their, search engines on their phone anymore. They have AIs. So they're probably subscribing to deep research. I mean, why would you bother to have a shallow response when you could get a much deeper one? But again, you have to be careful because it's biased. The training data and how the algorithms direct the training, and all that kind of thing. So workforce retraining and education, that's a big one. Regulation and governance. And of course, I would love for governance to be better, more efficient, and so on. But we're in the midst of the Trump gang dismantling the administrative state, which means getting rid of anybody with any expertise or knowledge, and then throwing shit at the wall. Idiots who have no experience in anything to do whatever the heck they're going to do. And how are they going to use AI and be manipulated by AI? And who's going to be doing the manipulation? Who's watching the watchers? Who's guarding the guards? So incentives and economic policies. So development, AI literacy, digital skills. This is hugely important. If I were a digital nomad, gig economy youngster, I would be all over this, man. Upskill in high demand areas, ethics, governments, robotics, maintenance, MAGA crowd. Get busy, go to school, learn this stuff. Robotics, operation and maintenance, learn this stuff. Okay, human creativity, that's my domain. Strategic thinking, interpersonal communication, complex decision making, that's interesting stuff. But human creativity, yeah, I want to write a scene about young husband when he massacred the Tibetan monks, and in one of the story I'm writing, and I can use this to research what it was like in Tibet back then, and how the peoples talked, and so on and so forth, and it makes it more realistic and interesting. Design people, set designers, costume designers, all this kind of thing's going to be amazing. Lifelong learning and career agility, corporate training and upskilling initiatives, literacy programs for the staff, restructuring, redesigning roles, redesign workflows. There used to be a thing called corporate process reengineering back in the day when I was in corporate consulting, and that was a big thing, a long time ago, 2003 or whatever. So leveraging AI to boost productivity ethically and whatever. But, conclusion, okay. AI-driven automation will be deeply woven into the fabric of technology industry, finance, healthcare, and everyday services like travel. United States, China, and Europe are each navigating the transformation in their own ways, with the US and China pursuing rapid adoption and innovation, and Europe emphasizing a balanced, regulated approach, but all demonstrating real gains. Yet these advances come with disruption. Preparing for the change is a shared responsibility. Governments must craft forward-looking policies, companies must invest in their people, and individuals must embrace lifelong learning. Okay, so you get the picture, right? McKinsey comes, these are papers you can look at. Price Waterhouse Coopers, PwC, all the big consultants, these are big money makers. It's all about business. There's nothing in here about mitigating climate change, protecting the soil and water resources, stemming the sixth extinction, nothing like that. Helping the global south develop in more intelligent ways, limiting war, peacemaking, better soft power politics, better diplomacy, nothing. So you refine the search, obviously, the prompt. Okay, AI-driven automation include recommendation for employers to upskill teams better. So you would change this prompt to include what I just mentioned, and see what it comes back with, and it would be different. And I'm going to do that. I'm very curious what it's going to say about Overshoot, about the Club of Rome work, about these ecological concerns, peacemaking concerns, and development concerns, and concerns about growth and the socioeconomic system. And, you'll probably get a fairly detailed outline like this with some good sources that you can delve into. But it's not going to be the same as, reading books and figuring out, delving into deeper sources, and thinking about it yourself and getting some expert advice and having people, help you with learning about domains that are very foreign to you. So this is my book recommendation page, and there's all kinds of different types of things. So eco-socialist bookshelf, not that I'm an eco-socialist or that I'm a, environmental anarchist or anything like that. I don't know what I am, but I'm just concerned about learning about this stuff. So here I have a section which is all about the nuclear stuff, and that was prompted, I started reading these books, some of them a second time, after watching the movie Oppenheimer. That was quite interesting. And then this is all about Overshoot and materials and, peak this, peak that, with quotes from William R. Cotton Jr. and Life After Fossil Fuels by Friedman and Charles A.S. Hall, Energy Return on Investment. The Trading Game, Gary Stevenson, about finance. hyperobjects, ultra society, overshoot, big gods, how religion transformed corporate and conflict, sex, drugs, and Cocoa Puffs. It's a pretty interesting book. How We Got Here, David Shields. And, a lot of these things talk about, material constraints and energy constraints and Javin's paradox and things like that. Propaganda, which I find extremely important to learn about, and Jacques Ellul is one of the best at describing that. And then just a whole bunch of other, books, Stoicism and all kinds of stuff about the Taliban and the Taliban at war, and Salazar. There's right-wing stuff, Ivan Illich, spiritual stuff, The Stranger, Albert Camus, Noam Chomsky, whatever. And so, it's fun to read books and to think about stuff. Doesn't make you a genius, doesn't make you special. The only thing that really saves us at the end of the day is what we do. And if we're going to do something to, to help our world get better. And that's why I wrote the piece. You can't write a perfect piece. It's not a book. It's a blog post. But it's such a deep subject and broad subject that it's quite hard to write it. I worked on it for a week or more. And you're just scratching the surface when you try to approach these things. And I did my best. I hope you'll read it. I have assumptions here about it, but I'll talk about this another time. I've been talking for 27 minutes. So take good care and have a nice rest of the week. Bouliam Tea out.